All right, boys and girls, so as we continue with our techniques booklet, we are going to start doing different technique pages with various materials. So for day 2, our assignment is to do all of our colored pencil techniques. So here's my little jar of all my little baby colored pencils that I am going to use for this assignment. So of course what you're going to need is one sheet of 9 by 12 paper, your colored pencils, and your sharpener. I have a little container that I use for the colored pencil shards, and then a pencil and an eraser, as well as a ruler or other form of straight edge. So this techniques page is actually going to be divided into 8 sections rather than 6. So just like before, I'm going to first divide it in half the long way there, and then I'm going to go directly in the middle this way as well, and then I'm just gonna divide each half in half again. So what I mean by that, boom, half, and then we're gonna do each section in half again. Remember, it doesn't really matter if it's perfect or not, we just need the different sections so we can do all of our techniques. So you are also going to need something sharp. I grabbed a push pin. Another thing that works really good is a paper clip bent open so you have the edge of the paper clip to scratch with, or even a butter knife if your parents let you use a butter knife. But something to scratch with too, because we're going to do a technique where we are going to be scratching into the colored pencils. Alright, so step 2, labeling. So we're going to label all the different techniques. Technique number 1 is called burnishing. So I'm going to just write that. Burnishing, and then we have blending. Light to dark. Hatching. Cross hatching. We have scraping. Stippling. And scumbling. Alright, so technique number 1, burnishing. You're just going to pick out a colored pencil. I think I'm going to go with purple. It's a nice dark color, so you're going to get a feel for what this technique does. So burnishing just means you're going to draw as hard as you can. And when you do this with colored pencils, it actually leaves a nice shiny finish. That is the burnishing technique. And of course, the nicer your colored pencils are, the more you're going to see that shine. But burnishing just means drawing basically as dark as you can, so there is no white space left. Let's just get zoomed in. I forgot to do that. Alright, so our next technique, blending. Now what's going to work best for this technique is picking 2 colors that are next to each other in the Roy G. Biv order. So remember, Roy G. Biv is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, the order of the rainbow. So the colors I think I'm going to pick yellow and orange. Boom. Alright, so the way I like to blend colors with colored pencils is I'll take the first color I'm starting with. In this case it's orange. I could have started with yellow, it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to draw really dark at first, and then as I go over from left to right, I'm going to start to ease up on that pressure so you can see that the color is getting lighter. And I'm just going to keep getting lighter and lighter as I go over until I'm not drawing the colored at all. And I'm just gonna make sure this goes a little bit more gradual, so looks like I need a little bit more color over here. Boom. So that looks about good for my orange. And now I'm going to do the same thing, except with the yellow, I'm going to go from the opposite direction. So I'm going to start darkest over here on the right, and as I go to the left, I'm going to lighten up so that these two blend together. And it should make a very seamless blending effect. And I'm lightening. And since yellow is such a light color, I might need to blend a little bit more so there are no harsh lines. All right, and that is how I like to blend with colored pencils. Next technique, we have light to dark, and we kind of already did this. I probably should have had this technique come before blending, but I am just going to roll with it now. All right, so light to dark simply means start dark, and as you go over to the other side of your paper, you just get lighter. Now just because I'm going left to right doesn't mean you have to. You could go from the bottom and get lighter as you go up. You could go dark over here and get lighter as you go that way. That part really doesn't matter. I just want to see that you are able to make that gradient. That's what this is called. It's called a gradient. Gradually changing value or tone so that it's essentially seamless. There are no harsh lines in between the light area, the medium area, and the dark area. And there we have light to dark, or dark to light, or up or down, or whatever. Alright, so hatching just means putting lines next to each other. And you can use hatching, oh this was purple. You can use hatching to create value, actually. So I'm just going to put some lines, and you can see I'm doing my lines really close together. And from a distance, that's going to appear to have a kind of a darker or medium toned value because they're close together. If you put more in, you can make it even darker. Now notice all my lines are going in parallel directions. Nothing is perpendicular. Perpendicular means they would cross over each other. But parallel means they're never going to touch. I mean, these touch a little, but it's still hatching. But parallel lines just means they could go on forever and never touch. Alright, so here you can see this is creating a lighter value because the lines are further apart. What you can also do with this technique is you can mix colors. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to get my red colored pencil sharpened and my blue, and I'm kind of going to create the illusion of purple because, as we know, blue and red make purple, and they will create the illusion of purple from a distance. At least they should. So there are my hatch lines of red, and I'm going to go in with my blue and put them right in between all the red. This may not obviously look like purple, but if you squint your eyes and kind of hold your paper from a distance, that's when you're going to get that illusion of purple. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with hatching. Alright, so cross hatching is very similar to hatching, except we are going to do perpendicular and all sorts of directional lines overlapping over each other. So I'm going to start with hatching. I'm going to just go diagonal with the green. And for this section, you can feel free to experiment with different colors layered in different directions over each other. So I'm starting with the green, and then I am going to cross some blue hatch marks over the green. Okay, so that is cross hatching. Now let's try again, but let's use 3 colors. So here I'm starting with red. Alright, then maybe we'll do some orange. And the important thing to note is that anytime you're doing another set of lines, you're just going to go in a different direction so that they overlap or cross over that first or second set of lines. And just like with hatching, you can create a variety of values and a variety of colors. You can color mix by doing cross hatching. So I'm doing a whole nother set of line. Now that's 3. I mean, if we really want to get crazy, we can even do a 4th. And none of my lines are going in the same direction. You can also just do 1 color. So I might do some cross hatching with the green and keep it pretty dark by using a lot of different layers in a lot of different directions. Okay, or you can create those lighter values with just 1 color. Like that. Alright, so next is a really fun one. I've actually never tried this technique, so wish me luck. I'm not even sure how well it'll go over, but I know you're all going to be patient with me, right? But yeah, that one was kind of a flop. Sorry about that. Okay, stippling. So this is a really fun one because I really like pointillism or pointillism. So what stippling is you're just going to use the very tip of your colored pencil and you're just going to make tiny little marks like that, just little points. And just like for the hatching and cross hatching, you can create a variety of value and a variety of colors depending on how many colors you use and how close together you put your points. So there is like a lighter value, but if I were to really take my time and stipple a bunch of marks really close together, you can see I could really create some dark values with this technique. So if you were to draw a picture just with stippling, you could create a variety of values and actually form any image you can imagine just with stippling, just with dots everywhere. So if I were drawing, let's say, and I wanted to blend a darker value into a lighter value, I would do it just kind of like this. I would have my stipple marks really close together, and then they would kind of gradually have more distance between them until they were super far apart and then non-existent at all. See that? Alright, and if I wanted to mix colors, let's mix red and green. Red and green are actually opposite colors, so when you mix them you kind of get a brown or a grayish tone. But I'm just going to try it just for fun. Now here's the last one. It's called scumbling. So scumbling is basically scribbling with a purpose. So what I mean by that is you've probably seen drawings like this before, but maybe you didn't know it was called scumbling. But sometimes artists will just kind of scribble, but they'll scribble in a way where they're creating value and they're actually creating an image while they do it, but it's just kind of like really messy and it doesn't really make sense until the image is done. So I am going to scumble a little teacup, I think. So I'm just scribbling, scribbling, scribbling.
nice. That looks.
Alright, so you can kind of have fun with this section and just try to scumble a little image of whatever you want, really. So that is all for colored pencils. But yeah, that is it for day 2 of our techniques book.